And we're live. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Mojo Show, your real estate podcast where we talk about everything real estate. I'm your host, Joe Mortgage.
And I'm Cup of Joe Mortgage.
This week's episode, we're continuing our discussion on rookie mistakes to avoid when making an offer on a home. But this week, we're going to focus everything a little bit more on the realtor side, a realtor viewpoint of what they typically see of rookie mistakes that are made out there. But before we get to that, little coffee talk with the Joes. Love this time because this is where we get to kind of kick back and a little cup of Joe in our hand and talk about the real struggles of adulting. Joe, I got a question for you. So hypothetically, if you could clone yourself, and
my wife would already say no.
No.
Sorry, go ahead with your question.
If you could clone yourself and that clone, you could assign one household chore so that you never had to do it again. What are you outsourcing to that personal clone of yours?
Laundry.
Okay.
I don't mind putting it in a washer. I don't even mind putting it in the dryer. It's the folding and putting away I cannot stand. It drives me insane. It's a waste of my time. But I agree, you need clean clothes and stuff like that. But man, laundry is my nemesis. I hate it.
Right.
My mom was wonderful. I grew up in a very great household where my mom did laundry, and that is her stress reliever. She absolutely loves doing laundry. So even when she would come to the house and the kids were small and all that stuff, she would just take over and do it. And folding clothes to her is a stress reliever. I do not understand it. It stresses me out.
Yes.
My wife, Tina is wonderful. She worked in retail. I don't fold anything that's right.
Of course not.
And she folded clothes for so many years working in retail. She doesn't like doing it anymore. So, so yes, if I could clone myself doing laundry, I would make them do that and I never have to touch it again. I'd be happy.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
What about for you? What is yours?
And by the way, as we go through this, folks, we'll say the Mojo Nation out there that's listening, both of you, please drop in the comments. I would love to know what household chore you would, outsource to your clone. If you were able to clone yourself, what would it be? And if anything, listen, if we get enough responses, what we could do next week, Joe, is we could take all those responses and kind of do a draft board on them. Right.
There you go. I like that.
So please drop it in the comments below.
So say the question one more time, because, some people might have just logged on and started listening to us. Nobody gets their cup of Joe going this early, I guess.
So again, here's the question for everyone. If you could clone yourself, and that clone, you could assign a household task to that clone so that you never had to do it again, never, ever again. What would that one household task be that you would outsource to your clone? What would it be? Now, for me, Joe, obviously it's the folding of the laundry. For me, it's the dishes.
Oh, okay.
I just can't listen. I love to cook. I do. I do most of the cooking here, but it's the cleanup afterwards. Not that I make a big mess or anything. The dishes, I can't. No, it's no. I mean, it's almost like folding socks, right? I mean, that's a part of the laundry that I'm sure you don't.
Matching socks don't happen.
Man, it's just and the socks. Okay, so here's another one for everyone, right? Socks. Do you ball them up or do you fold them over, or what do you do with your socks?
So we usually fold them over because when we got the puppies, what was it, 4 years ago? Our Great Dane and the Golden Retriever both would eat socks. And we have been so lucky not to have to go to the vet and have their stomachs pumped or surgeries. So at that point, we made the decision of folding socks. So that way there wasn't a ball of socks that couldn't pass. So we've gotten lucky on that one. But they don't do it anymore. But it's still kind of folding the socks over and putting them in a drawer. But we already have one person comment. Trevor Reed Trevor, if you don't know Trevor is an awesome person, works here at NXT with Joe and I. He can tell he's a jiu-jitsu guy. Excuse me, I did not say that right. And does a wonderful job there teaching self-defense. I don't know, Joe, if you do this. Him and his buddy, I think it's Isaac. If I got that wrong, I'm so sorry, Trevor. Please correct me. They do self-defense classes for real estate agents and kids, and it's jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So, Trevor, thank you for listening. But dropping the kids on, at
Everything.
Trevor also has a couple of adopted kids, and I think I might be wrong on this, Joe, but I want to say it's 5 kids total between theirs and their adopted children. And so I can understand Trevor is a busy man. He does loans, he does insurance, he does real estate, he does investment, and he's got 5 kids that he drops off. So, if you want to have energy, I guess jiu-jitsu is where you go, because Trevor still has energy. So.
Well, definitely drop some comments in here as we go through the show today, because I would love to hear what it is that one household chore that you would pawn off to your clone if you could. Obviously, it's laundry for you. And
I'm gonna ask this one more time. What would Carrie's be?
Ooh,
do you know? I mean, you're newlywed, so you might not know. I know
what
Tina's
would be. I know she's not listening in. She's working right now, but man, I'll have to ask her. I'll have to ask what her I wonder if it's making the bed. Maybe it's I don't know, because she doesn't. Her viewpoint on things is like, okay, let's just do it. It's an adventure.
That's Tina's too. Tina would probably be laundry also. She doesn't always like laundry. So, but I'll have to find out, and I'll share that next week. But let's get into the show today, because I see we have, the 2 people out there listening. Actually, I think we have a little bit more today. So it'd be awesome that we get into this show, and I know they're gonna take some good things away from it.
So today we're focusing in on the rookie mistakes that are made when putting an offer in. And I think one of the big ones right out of the gate, and correct me what you think on this, Joe, is really hesitating in a competitive market, right? Where, you see the home that you want.
Yeah.
But let's sleep on it. Let's wait. Let's wait the weekend and mull it over. Let's not make a knee-jerk reaction, which I can appreciate. But in a competitive market, you got to act now, especially those. And Joe, you know this. We get those that see the house, they love it and everything. It's like, okay, well, let's now get approved.
I agree with that. Competitive market, though, let's kind of explain that just for anybody that's watching, especially if they're new home buyers, first-time home buyers, or haven't bought in a while. Competitive market, there's a couple of different ways to look at what we mean by that. A competitive market could be it's a buyer's market, so there's a bunch of buyers out there that are going after homes, and even though there's homes in the market that are there, location is a huge thing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you see a house that's in the right location and where you want to be, waiting on that means somebody else might have that same thing, especially if it's a sought after area. So hesitating on those can cause you not to get that house. It can cause you to have to bid more or put a higher offer in, which then turns it to the seller has some more power, in that. So from a competitive market standpoint, I agree. The hesitation can cause you to lose out on a property that, and I know we'll get to this too here in a little bit, but it'll lose out on that property that could fit your needs and fit the locations that you're wanting.
Especially if it's school district.
Yeah. Oh yeah. School district is huge. Right. And right now, I mean, that kind of goes to what Tina and I are doing. We're we moved up to Nebraska. I have a wonderful family that's got us to where we're taking some time to figure out where we want to live. But the school district that we have to stay in for Anna is, it's the newer homes, or, not the real established, because they split the school district here. So that's a big thing in a competitive market, because we did look at one and we weren't ready to kind of do anything, and it's already pending. Even though it was on the market for 2 months.
Yeah.
So that, and which is fine. We weren't ready yet. But you're right. A competitive market, taking that time, sleeping on it. Now, I'm going to say this, Joe, I'm a big believer, right? So are you. If it's meant to be or not meant to be. So if you do have that gut feeling like I really need to sleep on this, and that's what I love about my wife, is she has that gut that has never really led us in the wrong direction. Now my gut has led us in the wrong direction a couple of times, but her gut, we stick to it and we listen to it, and we slept on it, and it wasn't meant to be. So that's in my belief, that's the bigger power, God up there telling us that wasn't the spot for us at this time. And so I think there's different ways to look at that in a competitive market. I always say trust your gut when it comes to certain things, but that one is there. But I think the bigger problem I have with new homeowners that are pre-approved and they're going out, and hopefully some real estate agents, if you're listening, please make a comment. Let us know if you agree with these points that we're talking about, because this is basically what we believe are good topics for real estate agents, and giving us the feedback of what they're experiencing and where it can make a problem. Is you see that house, it's been on the market for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, and they're wanting 400,000, and you want to go in and make that offer at 325 because the market slowed, right? The market slowed. I'm going to get a really good deal. A low ball offer. There's differences in making offers, in my opinion, Joe. And I would like to hear your opinion on this. Is what to you is a low ball offer from a percentage standpoint or a dollar standpoint? What kind of is that? Because you don't want to irritate the sellers. You don't want to make them upset because
you
they're
don't
not going to counter.
Yeah.
So I feel like we get in a market to where it's starting to slow, like we're in, where the selling, listings are staying on the market a little longer. More listings are coming on. Buyers are still hesitant because of rates. What is your opinion on a low ball offer?
I think it depends on the price of the purchase price itself. If you're in the 200 to 300s, or if you're
I don't know if I froze or you froze, Joe. All right. I'm hoping it's me, but I'm going to keep talking until we either figure out I came back or Joe. There are some thunderstorms where I'm at, guys. So if you are watching this podcast, I apologize if it's me that froze or if it's Joe that froze, but mine is still looking live on my end. Joe, are you there?
I'm here. Did I freeze up again?
Okay. I didn't know if I did or you did. I told you that I took off the ticker, but I could not hear you. So I don't know if you were still seeing yourself in the camera, but I just kept talking.
So, good. Okay. I think it's my Wi-Fi. Just kind of sputtered a little bit. So
okay. Well, let's go back to your from a low ball, because you started in to share it, and then that's when you cut out. So let's start over on that. What do you consider, in your opinion, as a low ball offer?
So I think it's just relative to the price point. If you're in the 200 to 300s, to be able to go down 50 grand, you're going to be offending the sellers, and in doing that, you end up losing leverage. Okay, because they're just not going to listen to you, right? But if you come in, let's say it's a 325, 330 type of purchase price. If you come in maybe 10 grand, 10 or 12 grand, something like that, then they're going to start to, along with the listing agent, probably look at it as far as, okay, what can we negotiate back, right? What can we start negotiating back and forth with to try to come to a, happy median, so to speak. And maybe some of that includes seller concessions, right? But if you just start out with, dropping at 50, 60, 70 grand, they're just no and move on. I mean, they're not even going to take you seriously because
and I think real estate agents do a good job here, especially if you're working with a very professional real estate agent. Yeah. And I know we were going to have one of mine on today, Doug, and if Doug, if you're listening, we do want you on the show. Yeah. but what we do here is, I think you have to start thinking of this from a real estate's perspective is, or realtor's perspective is, they're going to talk about percentages more than dollars. And I think that kind of goes to what you were saying is, a percentage, it doesn't, means wherever you're at, that percentage will be in correlation. So if you're in a $250,000 range, 10%, a 10% reduction, is 25 grand. And so you start doing some math on that. Well, what happens if they owe 220 on the house? Now, they're not able to sell it because they're not going to bring money to the table, and they want to walk away with a little bit of money to possibly put down on another house or something like that. So I always
3 to 5% in that.
Yeah, my father-in-law is in real estate. My father-in-law was in real estate for 30 years or 20 some years. And he always said, your first offer is usually the best offer that you're going to get if you're selling your house. And he always told me, if you're anywhere from 93% and higher, you need to look at the math and figure out, are you willing to let that one go away? And then when you counter back, how much are you trying to get them to come up from a percentage basis? And I really did appreciate him kind of explaining it to me that way.
I like it.
And so instead of the dollars, right, $25,000 on a $250,000 home, that's a big difference in what they're trying to sell. But 10,000 or 15,000 might be a little bit different in their mindset. So I like the percentage game of where do I want to be from a percentage standpoint. And also, how much does it affect your payment? And if your lender's not talking about that, because $10,000 off of the house purchase price today is going to save you, Joe, what is that? Well, about $100 a month, depending on the loan size.
How much off?
About 10 grand off the purchase price.
So you're looking at about $7 or $8 per thousand. So you're looking at about 80,000. I mean, $80 a month.
$80. So even on a high end, you say 100. Well, if you get them, if you save that 10,000 and you ask it for seller concessions, well, that saved you 10 grand out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Right. So which one makes more sense to you? $80 a month or $10,000 that somebody's paying towards closing costs to help you maybe get a better payment, better rate, something like that. Yeah. So I think people need to start understanding that a little bit different, and it helps you with your negotiating.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. Lowball offers. I would tell everybody, when you're making your offer, listen to your real estate agent. They know the market. They know what's going on in that location, that neighborhood, because here in Nebraska, what we're finding out is there are two really good neighborhoods that we're kind of looking in our price points. And, there are other ones out there, but these are like the sought after neighborhoods that, families and all that stuff don't leave. So when we're going to make an offer, we need to make a stronger offer if you want to be in that neighborhood. So.
And I think something that you touched on as well is another rookie mistake, and that's in regards to the realtor not listening to him.
Yeah, that is a huge rookie mistake, right? In my opinion.
I mean, because if you're the one that thinks that you're going to negotiate this and you're dead set, you draw the line on this is the amount and everything, you got to be able to listen and take in the guidance from your realtor. I mean, they're the reason why you hired them. They're a pro, right? So listen to because if they can negotiate, like Joe was just saying, as far as seller concessions, instead of dropping the price, coming down 10 grand or something, well, why not bring it down, say 5 grand and use 7 or 8,000 in concessions? Different things so that you can actually use those concessions towards your, buying down your interest rate or closing costs or what have you. Seek the guidance of your realtor.
Well, right? I think that also goes into play on locations. The guidance of your real estate agent, understanding why they're telling you, because we liked a neighborhood before, and the real estate agent saw that the homes weren't moving as quick in that neighborhood anymore. It happens a lot in Argyle, because I talk always about where I know things, right? I'm very good at just pinpointing specific. But like Argyle, you have Harvest, which is a great neighborhood, but real estate agents are like, okay, hey, you have an extra tax in there that's going to increase your payment. And if you're not listening to that agent because you're just sold on that neighborhood, then you have to accept, that you're going to have a higher tax amount and a higher payment in that situation. And so a good real estate agent is going to try to give you that information, and listening to them and trusting them is a big thing for anybody that's buying a house. And if you don't trust your agent and you don't trust your lender, then find new ones.
Exactly.
Because there's something that's not a connection for you. And I tell my clients that all the time. If we don't have a connection and you're not trusting that I'm taking the best care of you and your situation, then I might not be the right fit for you. So that's another thing I think is a mistake. And I know we don't have that on topic, is if you can't trust your agent and, whatever it is, maybe you need to find a different agent. And I'm not saying that to you to go on from agent to agent. And if agents are watching this, I'm not promoting that, but you don't want somebody that's going to, sign a buyer's rep agreement with you. And, we'll talk about the buyer's rep agreement. We've done that in the past shows, but you don't want somebody that's going to sign a buyer's rep agreement with you and go look at 90 homes, not trust you and not buy one, and then have to try to go after the buyer for possibly money. Nobody wants that. You don't want that on your reputation. That's not the reason you sign a buyer's rep agreement. So, if it's not going to work, don't waste each other's time and make a decision, but have a conversation about it. I think that's a big piece on that. The other one, I really, expectations.
Oh, my.
I mean, my expectations are different than my wife's expectations when it comes to buying a house, but it's the same thing from an expectation of a seller, in my opinion. That seller has expectations of what they're wanting. They listed it at a price based on either what their agent told them the house is worth, or what their heart is telling them the house is worth.
Their emotions. Yep.
And everybody says you're buying a house, don't be emotional about it. Well, you're selling a house that you raised your family in, possibly. And you guys, we don't think about that side of it. So when you're making these offers and things like that, tell a story. And I know we talk a lot lately, especially with PAPCAR and our sales processes and everything else, is what is the story? Well, there's a story behind everything. And if you don't know the story, it's harder to make a true decision on that property, but you don't want to put too much emotion when you're buying. But when you're selling, those people have emotional ties to that place, unless it was an investor like Trevor. He has investment properties he sells all the time. He has no emotional attachment to those. But his house where his kids were raised and everything else, there's an emotional attachment.
Yep, absolutely.
But what are some of the things of unrealistic expectations that you think first-time home buyers are making, or pre-approved buyers are making?
Probably in concessions, seller concessions. I right now everyone feels that we're in a buyer's market, which, the numbers, I know we did a show on this a month or two ago. At that time, we, as far as are we in a buyer's market at the time, some numbers in certain areas supported it, some numbers in other areas didn't. And, I think it's just kind of neighborhood dependent, but in a buyer's market, people think that they can go in with these high expectations of, if it's a $350,000 home, well, let's ask $225 and get 10 grand seller concessions. And we want that wall painted a different color. I mean, and I know we'll probably get into this in our next show, as far as not waiting for the perfect home, but buyers right now, their expectations, I think, are way too high. They're being way too picky on things, that they want the house to be perfect before they put an offer in. And if it's not, then they want certain repairs done beforehand. Guys, this is going to be your house, right? You do the repairs. Take the responsibility. You do your repairs. If you want that, master bedroom to be a different color, great, paint it.
Right.
I mean, it's that simple.
Or customize it to, what you want.
What your taste is.
Because a seller, this is where I agree with you. If I'm asking Joe to, fix up his house, certain things that I want as I'm buying it, is Joe's quality of work really going to go to the same as what I want in that quality?
That's another part of it. Yep.
Because when we listed our house in Texas and we were trying to sell it, my brother and I, we spray painted a lot of things and it did not turn out really the way that I liked it. And, if the people that bought my house are listening, I told you this when you bought it. But I know, so sometimes you might not want to ask somebody to do that because now you're going to go in there and there's paint on the ceiling. Now you're going to have to ask them, well, I want the ceiling paint off of there, put it back to white. There's a bunch of different things. So thinking of those unrealistic expectations of, I want this house to be perfect when I walk into it. Existing homes, they can be great. Customize it to what you want in that house. If you want a house that's perfect into every bit and piece, you're going to have to go get a custom builder. And then you're going to have to pay a ton of money,
lot more,
to even get an architect out, get drawn up plans, designs, and all that. And, then you can have your perfect home. But if you're buying your first house, guys, this is where you need to be like, hey, I've never owned a home. I want to, figure out what I need in a house. I want to live in it, get the paint that you want, because guess what? When you're in the house, the sun shines through the windows different ways and the color does not look the same in every room. So those are things that I would recommend.
And I think as well, if you see a house that's been on the market 30, 40, 60 days, that doesn't mean that, because that's kind of standard right now. So that doesn't mean that you can go in with these lowball offers that we talked about at the beginning of the show, and all these seller concessions. Because again, you're just, with those high expectations of seller concessions and repairs and everything, again, you could offend the seller. And now that house that you really like, sorry, but they're not even going to consider the offers that you're putting in to even start negotiating.
You can even go the other route on that, Joe. If I make an offer to you that's lowball and you accept it, well, now I'm getting an inspection done, and now there's something that I need repaired. You're not going to be as willing to look at that repair. Hey, the AC unit is 20 years old and it's not really doing the job it needs to. So now I've already done that lowball offer. Are you going to be willing to give me another 10,000 towards an AC unit? No.
Nope.
Right. So, and I say these numbers, 10,000, stuff like that. It's all going to depend on the purchase price of the house.
Right.
But those are things to take into consideration. So I would recommend, and hopefully any agents, please tell us different. I would recommend you make an offer of what you're comfortable with, knowing that you're going to get an inspection done. Because if somebody just accepts that lowball offer, in my opinion, from a seller standpoint, if I go down, if I'm trying to sell my house for $440,000, you make me an offer at $390, and I accept you at $399, what's wrong with that house? Because now you're getting an inspection.
Exactly.
Yep. And so those are things. And that kind of leads into the last thing that I think is a problem when somebody's making an offer, is they go in with, oh, we won't do an inspection. If you're a first-time home buyer and you don't have experience owning a house and the maintenance and all that stuff, I don't recommend that. And I know agents sometimes say, well, we could get it, get it accepted if we do this. You do not have to ask for the repairs to be paid for by the seller, but getting an inspection, get it. It makes sure that you're not buying a lemon. You're not buying something that all of a sudden, your roof is leaking. You're not buying something where you have electrical issues, plumbing issues. All that stuff can add up really quick. And after you move into a house, you don't want to deal with those issues right away.
I mean, think of it as buying a car. You're not going to buy a car without test driving it first. You want to test drive the car to see mechanically, is it sound, right? Does it drive well? Does it lean, does it lean to the right when you hit the brakes? I mean, and inspection is going to do that for you on the house.
That's right. That's right. Well, I know we went through a lot today, and we're coming up on that time, Joe. And I want to make sure people know how to get a hold of us.
So let's kind of wrap things up with just some kind of bonus points here for everyone. Buyers, listen, don't go dark during the decision-making window, right? When I say don't go dark, I mean, that's you cut off communication to your realtor, your lender, especially, and you just, kind of go on vacation, so to speak. Another point is missed documents, slow responses, or unclear instructions These are things that can actually lose deals. So when it comes time to pull the trigger, you need to act fast, not slow responses. Documents have to be in immediately so that you don't lose the deal. And one other pro tip here is that the magic in all of this is really just staying in touch and responsive and in sync with your team being, your realtor and your lender. So next week, folks, that's just kind of wrap things up. Next week, though, let's talk about that. Joe and I are going to be discussing, hopefully we'll have a guest next week, by the way, that we're thinking of bringing on a special guest to be able to discuss with us why you should not wait for the perfect home. So be sure to tune in next week at our usual time, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Central. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening today, as well as the comments that we got, especially with our poll. If you haven't submitted your poll yet because I would love to do a draft board on this. I really would. On the household chore that you would pawn off on your clone self so you never have to do it again, drop it in the comments. We'd love to see it. And if we have enough responses, we'll definitely put a draft board together. But thank you again for everyone watching. If you want to catch up on our past episodes, go to our YouTube channel at The Mojo Show Real Estate Podcast. And of course, while you're there, be sure to hit the subscribe button because we are on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers. And of course, every like, share, comment helps us to reach more home buyers like yourselves. So before we close things out, Joe, any last words or nuggets of advice for our audience?
When you're looking to buy a house, trust the people that you're wanting to work with. That is the advice I'd give.
Awesome. Well, I'm Joe Mortgage, and that handsome guy there with the beard on is Cup of Joe Mortgage, and we'll see you next week. Mr.